Meanwhile, 6 months later, I think the last time I made a recording for this was in June, and it is now December. In that period of time, I've been thinking about this whole concept of the process. A YouTube series which is about the creative process, specifically focusing on making a particular kind of music video, but more generally than that. And in thinking about that, it's occurred to me that, I can incorporate a lot into the overall process. It's not just the actual kind of recording and composing, it's getting the conditions right in order to be able to work. So I was wondering, how much do I talk about the last 6 months? Is it even relevant? If I'm telling a tight story, I probably wouldn't mention it. But then again, I don't know. The way that I make these is I just try and record everything and then leave it down to the editing to figure out what's relevant and what isn't. So, more coffee. Here's what's happened in the last 6 months. And I feel it's kind of interesting in terms of the process. A week or 2 weeks after the last video I made, my father died. 4 days after that, my wife gave birth to our daughter and I became a dad for the first time. And then I think a couple of weeks after that, we moved house. This incidentally is no longer where I live, it is now my office. And yeah, a lot went on. Yeah, actually, really the reason why I wanted to record this, in terms of fitting into this overall idea of the process, is that I feel like, for me, making a creative project essentially for fun, when you're looking at the process of that, one of the most natural things is you can't do it for 6 months. Like, that's something I've experienced again and again and again. You've just got to put it on pause. The process of doing any project and doing all of the projects is all about just looking at your to-do list, looking at the projects, looking at the tasks, saying, how much time have I got? What can I work on now? What should I work on now? What's just got to wait? And unfortunately, just in terms of the priorities and the seriousness of a lot of the stuff that's been happening, I've just had to put this on the back burner. But yeah, hopefully back now. Hopefully let's get back into it. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a catch up. So like at the moment, I actually cannot remember where what I last worked on. I think I got to the point where I have created what I would call a skeleton track. I'm working in GarageBand on an iPad at the moment. I think I had created a very rough kind of draft recording of me singing and playing guitar for the entire track. And that's how I start. I need that to be able to get a sense of what the structure is, what I might want to do with it. And then when I actually start composing, I'll have that in the background. It's just a simple practical thing of, if I'm recording a part, am I in the second verse, the third verse? Actually having that as a way of telling you what the placeholder is. I guess I'm at the point now where I just need to start layering a part, basically. I need to pick an instrument and I need to just start at the beginning of the track, record the whole thing, see if it sounds good. If it doesn't, tweak it. If I get it sounding good, then I think, what would complement that? And then I add something else. And I do that a layer at a time. I've tried in the past, and I think pretty much always failed, to get an idea of an arrangement beforehand. But I really find that once you do one part, that's actually going to set the tone, and you can't know how it's going to set the tone until it's done. So it makes sense to think of an arrangement as a single layer at a time. So I guess with the skeleton track done, I've been thinking of this idea of Hammond organ. I think probably that's going to be the next thing, just recording the Hammond organ part, trying to get it sounding as good as possible. Actually, no. I think it's probably going to be the drums, because I think that drums and percussion makes such a difference. That really sets the tone, and you don't need to think about the musicality. You don't need to think about what the harmony's going to be. You don't need to think about any of the intricacies of that. You are just thinking about the feel. Getting the feel right at the beginning with the drums, I feel, makes it so much easier to layer parts on top. As I said, it sets the tone. So I guess that's next, setting the tone.